the NICU, the neonatal intensive care unit, is a very special place. It's just somewhere, just the feeling that you have there, it just feels like little angels from heaven all around you. Wow, it's a really kind of a cool place. Just little miracles would happen. You can't just go through something like that and be the same person. But I remember even from when I had received my diagnosis, I decided I wasn't going to let this define me. I wasn't just going to be the person who kind of lays there in bed being sick.
I'm Becky Brower, and I'm a Sendy Mom. Welcome to the Sendy Mom Podcast.
Well, welcome to the Sendy Mom Podcast. I am really excited to be here with my sister-in-law, Kim Dodds. She married my younger brother, who is just a year and a half younger than I am. So I love this girl so much.
Thank you. Love to be a part of the family.
Yes. And it's kind of a lot to join this big, crazy family.
Especially I joined marrying in one of the older kids. So there were a lot of younger siblings.
Yeah, exactly.
Being raised and start their own families. So that's been fun.
Yeah, it's fun. And it allows you to kind of get to know everybody a little bit better. Before we start, let me know why you would want to be on this podcast and what you think makes you a Sendy Mom.
Well, I've always been really adventurous. Even as a kid, I loved trying new things and doing new things. Sometimes sticking with things is hard for me. I tend to jump into something and love it while I'm doing it and then feel like, okay, what's next? And move on sometimes too quickly. I guess that's why I wanted to be here is I feel like this is a place for people who are adventurous and willing to just kind of put themselves out there a little bit and try things.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really what it is. And you don't have to feel too bad about being a generalist. So this was my last podcast, actually. She talked about, being a generalist is actually more healthy for you, where you are exploring lots of different things. And then you kind of use all those skill sets that you've gained to make a more meaningful life. So it's a good way to live your life too. So I'm excited to kind of find out some of the things that you've done in your life. So tell me a little bit about your family growing up and what that looked like.
So when I was 11, we moved to St. George and I did my junior high and high school years there. Before that, I'm from a very small town called Fairview. I have 3 sisters. I'm the second. So I have 1 older, 2 younger.
Mm-hmm.
Out of all of us, my youngest sister and I are the most alike. She's very adventurous. She likes to travel and get out there and do new things. But growing up without boys, that was a little different for me because my house was very quiet and calm most of the time.
Okay. Yeah.
I wouldn't say that we were all very adventurous we kind of just had routines. We followed our routines. And it wasn't until probably I graduated from high school and moved out on my own that I was able to really explore and do a lot of the things that I wanted to do and try new things. And
did you feel like you were encouraged to take risks at all when you were younger?
Probably not so much.
Okay.
My parents didn't really put us into sports or anything like that where we really pushed ourselves. Got older. When I was able to drive myself, I joined the tennis team, and that was kind of the basis of my athleticism all through high school is just doing that.
And were you kind of academic then?
A little more so. I was more focused on just being with friends, doing things with friends.
Okay.
I probably neglected my academics more than I could have. I could have really applied myself and gotten scholarships, but
yeah, couldn't we all? Right? And our children too. Right? We like to encourage them to reach their full potential, but sometimes it has to come later. I mean, because certainly you've been successful in your life, and
it has to come when they want it to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So did you feel like you were cautious then as a child?
More so, I don't know. I wouldn't say cautious, but just didn't really know to go beyond the boundaries. I just kind of fell within the boundaries that were set for me and didn't really explore a lot of new things.
Yeah.
We did have a pretty supportive family environment. Moving to St. George kind of cut us off a little bit from that, but we still got together with my grandparents, especially. They would come down. We would go see them quite a bit. So there was good family support. There were good youth leaders around.
Yeah.
I also have a daughter who has special needs. We can talk about Maddie.
Yeah, let's talk about Maddie.
She's currently 19. She was born with Down syndrome and she also has autism.
Mhm.
So she's nonverbal. She's mobile. She can walk around and move around, but she functions at about the level of a toddler.
Yeah.
Other than communicating, she doesn't speak. But she does communicate through certain gestures. She likes to grab your hand and walk you around the house. She has no boundaries. She's very loving and very, very hands on.
Yes. Yeah. She'll come and sit right on my lap.
She'll just go right up onto you.
And then she takes your hands and she
Makes
wants
you a hugger.
and it's the sweetest thing. And she's not like she's never been really an issue. She's
She's
around.
not hard. She doesn't throw tantrums. She doesn't have aggression issues, anything like that. She's very sweet. She can get loud sometimes.
Yeah.
She gets very vocal and whatnot, but she's really sweet with the other kids too. She's
Yeah.
always been very gentle, but she does take a lot of work
Right.
to raise her, and someone always has to be watching her.
Yeah. So tell me about that a little bit. Like, okay, take me back to when you found out that she had that. Was that before she was born or after?
The Down syndrome?
Yeah.
We didn't know until she was born. Yeah, she came early. She was 5 weeks early, but I had a normal pregnancy with her.
Yeah.
She was very small, and she was born very fast. So she did spend some time in the NICU, about 5 weeks, learning to breathe and eat and all those things. So we did know right away after she was born something was going on.
Well, take me back to that, like, because that must have been, a shock to you. But what were kind of some of your thoughts? And if there are other people that kind of are going through something like this, like what would be some of your advice for dealing with, this just, there's a bit of a grief that's associated, I think, when expectations are not met, even if you immediately decide, of course, we're going to love this child, you still have to like change some of these expectations you had.
Yeah, there's definitely a process that you go through. You have to, like you say, change your expectations of what raising that child is going to look like and how it's going to affect the family. And it does affect our family as far as when we plan vacations or even just a trip anywhere. We have to plan things a lot around Maddie and what she can do. She doesn't always sleep very well out of her own bed and things like that. We have to remember to accommodate her. But, there's perks too, because when we took her to Disneyland, we had the handicap pass that allowed us to skip lines in some cases.
VIP.
There's the reward that comes with the hard too. Maybe that can apply to a lot of things in life.
What are some of her other struggles that she's had?
She has digestive issues that we can't figure out. She was diagnosed at the beginning of this year with celiac disease, has definitely struggled with that for longer than we knew. And we've tested her, and it wasn't until we finally did a colonoscopy with biopsy that we figured it out.
Wow. Okay.
And with that, it's just a constant struggle trying to find the right foods to feed her. And this has been ongoing for at least the last 15 years.
Really?
At first she had a lot of constipation issues, and then it swung into more diarrhea issues.
Yeah.
So without getting into a lot of detail, it's hard to figure out what to feed her. And that in itself affects travel with Maddie.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. Which is,
Mm-hmm.
I thought that you would kind of, so have you been able to get a hold of it now that you know about the gluten?
We know what triggers it, but she seems to be extra sensitive. So anytime at school, she can grab something before they catch her, grab somebody's roll. So it's not under control yet, but I think we're moving in the right direction and knowing what to do.
Yeah, she's very oral. She really
Very
explores the world through her mouth. So
everything goes in her mouth. And she's very motivated by food.
Yeah.
So I have to watch her very closely.
Right. Well, and the communication is tricky too, because she can't really tell you when she's hurting. Right. Yeah. I remember there was one time when her hip was out of place or something like that.
Yeah. She does have frequent hip dislocation.
Yeah. That's normal.
She's had that for quite a while. Fortunately, it doesn't affect her being able to walk and move.
She's super flexible.
She's very flexible.
Yeah. That's sweet. Yeah. So as far as like so having to think ahead for her and things like that, what are some of the joys that she's brought into your life because of, the things that you've learned from her?
It definitely has helped all of us in our family to be more compassionate and just be more accepting of others. As far as Joy, I mean, she's just full of love. She just kind of radiates love and light. And it's kind of funny because we'll be sitting on the couch and she'll just walk over and just kind of plop herself right between people or on top of someone if they won't move. So
Yeah, she's so cute.
she's just,
What are some of the resources that you've been able to find throughout the years to kind of help with her?
we were fortunate enough to come in contact with a lady who runs an organization called Braid's Place. This happened maybe 5 or 6 years ago, thinking. And she connected us to a lot of resources that helped us get a wheelchair for Maddie for like when we go
Yeah.
places and she can't walk, an adapted seat in the car for her, restraint system. So
Mhm.
she doesn't climb out of her seat because she outgrew the baby car seats and things. And recently we've gotten off the wait list for Division of Services for People with Disabilities so that we have in-home respite coming now,
Wow.
which has been a night and day difference for us.
Yeah. Yeah. It gives you a little bit of a break
Yeah.
from things for
Mhm.
a little bit, which is important.
Yeah, we were just all on our own.
Yeah. And you were in St. Louis for a while
We did,
too.
yeah. Just before that, we moved the whole family to St. Louis for Jim to go to PA school.
Yeah. Talk about being Sendy.
Yeah, that was a trip because our youngest daughter, she was only a few months old. Out of all
Yeah.
of our 6 children, they
That's
range in
crazy.
age. There's 12 years apart between all the 6 of them.
Wow. Yeah.
So, yeah, our oldest was only in junior high, and then we had a newborn and a couple of toddlers.
Yeah.
And we moved him across the country for 2 years to go to PA school.
Yeah. So what led up to that?
Well, we had been living up the mountain, up past Sundance, at an amazing place called Aspen Grove Family Camp. Jim was a facility manager living on site there. That was so much fun. Just our kids were involved in activities all summer long. There were people around. We lived in paradise.
Yeah. I know it's beautiful up there.
We ate at the dining hall all summer, didn't have to cook meals or
Uh-huh.
I just kind of got to be there and enjoy nature and,
Uh-huh.
just love my surroundings. And then Jim, he volunteered with the fire department and the ambulance crew, decided that he really loved the medical side
Mm.
of that volunteer work and thought, why not go back to school and do something medical?
Yeah. Wow. Why
So we
not?
did,
I'm
and
only,
it was hard.
he was like
It was
38 years old or
yeah,
something like
he's
that.
pushing 40 and
Yeah.
had to completely basically go back to school and start from scratch
Wow.
to do it all.
And
It was
what did you think about that?
I kind of laughed when he first told me. I didn't
Really?
think he was serious.
Would you have just stayed at Aspen Grove forever? Would you have been okay with
It did start to get a little harder as the kids got older. Our oldest daughter was 9 when we started making all of these changes, and she was wanting to hang out with friends and do things more. During the school year was hard because she had to be bused all the way down to the valley.
Okay.
When school was over, she came back home and all of her friends played with each other and
And she didn't have friends.
she didn't have friends
that winter.
during the fall, winter.
Yeah. Yeah, that is
So
kind
that
of
was a
hard.
little isolating for her. I loved it. I would have been fine.
Yeah. Well, and
But at the
sometimes
same
we
time-
think we idealize it, right?
Yeah.
We think, oh, if we just live out in nature in the forest, or let's
Mhm.
go to, live on a beach or something like that. But the reality of it is a little bit different, especially when you have children that you're
Yeah.
trying to help to keep them social and
Mhm.
things like that.
And help them be well-rounded, doing sports. We had Aspen, our oldest daughter, doing soccer, and we had to drive all the way down the mountain
Yeah.
for practices, for games. It was difficult. So I think I started to realize at the same time Jim did that, maybe it was time to look at doing something different.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So
change.
tell me about like getting into PA school. Well, and even just taking classes. Like, how did
Mhm.
you wrap your brain around that he was actually serious and be okay with
At
that?
first, there were a lot of prerequisite classes he had to take to even be ready to apply to PA school.
Yeah.
So he started doing that because he was working through BYU. He got to take the classes for free.
Yeah.
So he kind of just started dipping his toe in the waters and took some classes here and there. And then after a couple of years doing that, he realized if I'm going to do this, I need to commit and do it full time
Yeah.
because there's a time frame in which you have to get all your prerequisites in before you can apply.
Right.
They can't go beyond, I think, 5 years or you have to start over again.
Wow. Yeah.
So we moved down to Orem and he commuted for a year, still trying to do school, and then realized I need to just quit my job and do school. So he did. He quit his job,
What did you
the
think?
whole
What were you
time. And
thinking?
at this time, I was just like, okay, if this is what we're supposed to do, then we'll figure it out.
And you had 6 children.
We didn't have all 6 of them at the
Oh,
time.
yeah, I had 5. 5 kids, 5 little kids, though.
Yeah.
And you're not
So
working.
I wasn't working. I was just home with them.
Okay.
We owned a duplex down in Orem at the time, and we just moved down into half of it, and the other half was rented out, and that almost covered all the mortgage.
Yeah.
So
There are ways to
somehow,
do
you know,
these
we
things,
just
right?
made it work.
Yeah.
We
You,
ate frugally.
yeah, exactly. You just learned to be more frugal and
Yeah.
like house hacking. I mean, how beautiful is that you were able to find this duplex and,
Mhm.
and be able to rent out half to be able to pay for everything else.
Yeah.
And that kind of paid for PA school too, right?
So yeah, when he finally got accepted, he applied 1 year and didn't get in, so we had to wait an entire another year. And during that time, he started working as a phlebotomist. So we did have some money coming in then. And then when he was accepted into PA school, we just like I mentioned before, moved to the family out to St. Louis.
Yeah.
We were there for 2 years. We sold the duplex, and that helped to pay for a lot of the schooling and the expenses there. It didn't cover all of it, but it sure was a blessing.
Yeah.
I needed it to be.
And that was a real hardship on both of you because the school is hard when you're.
It was. I didn't see much of him for those 2 years. I kind of did the single parenting thing, trying to involve all the kids in their activities. And
Yeah. Want to talk about
So-
resilience to, for you to be able to do that. And then the kids were able to learn too, to
yeah.
do a lot of things on
Mhm.
their own too.
And I think, especially our older ones, they saw how hard he was working to get through school. And hopefully that taught them that we can do hard things.
Yeah, exactly. I was so proud of him. Like, but as you guys,
Yeah, it
well,
was a
all of you,
struggle.
like it is a real struggle, but to put yourself into those situations that are going to be hard, and then you get the growth. It's not even the destination all the time. It's just like the process of doing it helps you to grow as a person, to gain some incredible tools so that you can apply them later in life for all sorts of things. But so tell me about baby James.
So yeah, he was our firstborn son. He was born with a genetic brain disorder called lysencephaly, which means that he had a double cortex in his brain. It's a disease called smooth brain. So basically, the brain has natural ridges and folds in it. His was more smooth.
I didn't even know. So basically, he just doesn't even have as much surface like gray matter or whatever because it's.
I guess so. Yeah, it's just the shape of his brain was very different. So it was something totally undetectable by ultrasound.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
And this is your first
This was
baby.
the first one.
Yeah.
He was actually my second pregnancy after a miscarriage.
Oh, I didn't even remember that.
And that was a third one too. That one, it was a miscarriage that started at about 5 weeks, but it didn't finish till 11. So during that time, I spent a month on bed rest, and while Jim was trying to finish school, that was his last semester of school. After that, and then of course we had baby James, and I was probably a very nervous pregnant lady. My poor obstetrician, I would come in with the whole list of the questions, like, this is what's happening. Is this normal? What should I be feeling now?
Yeah.
And honestly, didn't suspect anything was going on until the end of the pregnancy, when I started retaining too much amniotic fluid and got very big and just tight. I couldn't. Yeah, it was just, everything was so full and tight in there. And I think my doctors knew something was going on, but it was undetectable. They didn't know what was going on for sure.
Interesting.
So
they could tell because you were growing bigger than what you were supposed to be. So like something is, and the baby wasn't necessarily growing any bigger, or
he was normal-ish sized, I think. Yeah. But like heart rate and all the vitals were always normal at my checkup. So
interesting.
Right up at the end, I think I kind of started getting the feeling something was off, but I didn't know for sure.
Did he go full term?
He went to 37 weeks.
Okay. And you naturally
delivered naturally. Yeah, they were going to induce. I went into labor. If I hadn't gone into labor on my own, a few days later, they would have induced labor.
Okay.
So anyway, he was born, spent a week in the hospital.
How was like when he was first born, they knew something was wrong, right?
Yeah, he wasn't breathing normally. They took him immediately to the intensive care.
And what were you thinking at that point? Like,
I still didn't really think anything was going on. Like the labor had been hard for me, and delivery kind of just.
So you were still
I was going through all the firsts.
Yeah. You didn't know
I
what to
didn't really
expect
know what
even.
to think
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It wasn't like,
until
they're
except I
taking him
knew.
away. I don't know what they're doing with him. It
Yeah,
was
there
more of
was
like,
that though. I
oh,
knew I
mhm,
didn't get to hold my baby right away. It just was, I
yeah.
was thinking, I thought that was going to go differently.
Yeah.
So then there was kind of a lot of activity that happened over the next hour or two, and we started becoming aware that there was definitely something going on, and the doctors didn't know what, because by all appearances he was a normal baby,
Uh-huh.
but he was not breathing properly on his own and doing things that he should have. Some of the signals that were supposed to communicate to his body weren't happening.
Yeah. Okay, that makes
So,
sense. But he lived for a full week.
he was life flighted that night up to Primary Children's. That's at that time we were living down in southern Utah.
Uh-huh.
So the next day, we drove up and spent a week there with him.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that was a really hard time.
mm,
So what were some of the things that were helpful for you during that time?
I mean, the NICU, the neonatal intensive care unit, is a very special place. It's just somewhere, just the feeling that you have there, it just feels like little angels from heaven all around you.
Wow.
It's a really kind of a cool place. Just little miracles would happen. I know your parents were able to come down and spend some time with us there at the hospital. I think the people that we were surrounded by helped us get through it.
Yeah.
My parents came up for a bit. I guess going through what we went through with him made it easier when Maddie was born,
Yeah.
because a lot of people would come and just be, "Oh, I'm so sorry that you're going through this. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry you have to have this." And kind of in the back of my mind, I just kept thinking, she's going to live.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what happens.
Yeah.
There'll be trials. It'll be hard, but she's going to live, and we're going to do
Isn't
what
it
we have to
interesting how these hardships like really prepare us for the future trials that happen
for
and
whatever reason. It
yeah,
was not fun to go through. I wouldn't want to go through it
no,
again, but
for sure.
mm,
That you've got this beautiful little baby James that's
mhm.
waiting for
Yeah.
you.
And he has little cousins up there with him.
That's right. Yeah. And we just celebrate the life that we're able to give and the
Mhm.
people that we're able to love, no,
Yep.
and the relationship that we have even when they're not here anymore. And sometimes really it comes down to just accepting what is. And
Right.
maybe that's the tool that you learned as a child when your mom was having difficult times, you
Mhm.
just accepted like, well, this is what my life is and this is how I'm going to move forward. And that's
Mhm.
really what resilience is, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
okay, I have this baby that didn't work out. Okay, but I'm gonna get pregnant again. You didn't stop, and then you had Aspen and normal
Mhm.
pregnancy, right? And were you like scared to death like during her pregnancy? And
I just remember I didn't want to just sit around and do nothing and wait. So we were living up the mountain at the time, and her pregnancy was mostly through, well, I guess the beginning of it was summer and then mostly through fall and winter.
yeah.
So I I knew I needed to have something to do. And so I started sewing, and I joined a quilt group. And
Oh
that was my
yeah.
quilting era of life. Yeah. So I found something that would bring me joy every day, that I could take my mind off of my own worries and insecurities and create something beautiful. Oh,
What a great way to deal with um, boredom because you were up in the mountains,
mhm,
right? And then also like creating things just it gives you this sense of joy and accomplishment and
mhm,
peace. So I think a lot of times when we go through hardships or hard things, we have a choice. We either sit still or we move. And it's always better to move, to do
right,
something, right? To pick
mhm,
something and to go for it. So,
yeah.
and you
Yeah.
you became like really involved in like the Quilters Guild and things like that,
Yeah,
right?
I did. I got on the board, and I was in charge of I was the secretary for 1 year, and then I was in charge of the newsletter publication that they did,
Okay.
which meant I had to collect articles from people that wanted to submit. I had to organize the layout of it and get it to the printer and then do the mailings. So it was a lot of busy work, but it was things that kept me busy.
It was
So
important to have that kind of
yeah.
busy work. And then you were able to get together at meetings once a month or something
Yeah, we
like
did the
that, right?
monthly meetings, and the way I found out about the group was they used to do a retreat up at Aspen. And so one day I saw all these ladies, there were 40 of them, or however many. They all brought their
Yeah.
sewing machines and their bags of projects, and they set it all up in this large conference room that we had up there. And I was just amazed, like walking around and interacting with them. They were all so nice and so eager to show what they were creating and making. And
Okay.
So
Oh,
even though
I
I had
love that.
started sewing and doing actually sewing quilts on my own, I was raised tying quilts. My
Uh-huh.
mom tied quilts and my grandma.
Yeah. So have you picked that up again? Do you still
I don't do
quilt?
it so much now. I make baby quilts now and again. I've I guess focused on getting out and being active more now that my kids are raised and no, not raised, but they're older.
Older.
I'm not stuck at home with babies.
Yeah.
That was a
Mhm.
time in my life where I was finding things that I could do at home.
Right. Mhm.
So now,
Yeah, I mean, you
yeah,
complete a section of your life and then you just kind of move on to
mhm,
the next thing. And which, I mean, it's kind of what we were talking about too, just being a generalist and trying a lot of different things. So
mhm.
yeah, but you did get really good at quilting.
It
So
was a lot of fun.
yeah,
I may
that's
get
really
back to it
cool.
one day.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. When
Still
you
have a
can't
lot of
be
my
so
supplies.
active. I know. Well, while you're active, then you should, right? Like,
Yeah.
or you can just do it, so you might as well. So let's talk
Mhm.
about your activity because I mean, you said that when you were in high school, what did you do? You did
I did tennis
tennis. That's right.
my senior year
Okay.
and discovered how much fun it was to be on a team
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
liked that. And that was
Yeah.
fun.
That's cool.
And then while we were at Aspen Grove, well, and let's back up a little. Before I was married, I majored in fitness and wellness management. It was an exercise science
Ah,
management BYU because even in high school, I would get out with friends and we would go hiking. I mean, you can't live down in that area and not get out and do things.
yeah, exactly.
Zion National Park is close. We used to go there for like some of the dates that you do in high school,
Uh-huh.
like prom and things like that. You do the day date. Well, we would go to Zion's and go hiking and go through the canyons and stuff. So I started to develop a love for being active and being physically involved at that point in my life. And that led me to my major. So then when we were living up at Aspen Grove, well, so back up again a little bit. When Jim and I first got married, he was just finishing his degree. And when we were engaged, I had the option of either choosing to follow him and pursue that relationship or to follow a company that I was working for in Nevada
Okay.
and establish a company. It was called National Institute of Fitness, where it was basically a facility where people could come and stay who are working on lifestyle changes
Oh,
and learning how to eat
okay.
right, how to exercise, and incorporate that
So
as
how long would they
routine.
stay?
So they could come and check in as long as they wanted to for several weeks or several months.
Uh-huh. And like you have a personal trainer and a dietitian and
Yeah,
programs
just
set up
learn all
for
of
them.
those different.
Okay.
So, and I was hired on as a fitness instructor and
Hmm.
not really a lifestyle coach, but as someone, more in the fitness area of it. And I loved it.
That's
It would
really
have been
cool.
amazing. That was what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I was really close to the dream job situation,
Yeah. Okay. So what
but I
happened?
chose to get married and
Yeah.
I chose to follow Jim. And we met at Aspen Grove, Jim and I did in
Wow.
college. So when the opportunity came for us to be married and live and work up there, it was an easy choice.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and he kind of was not helpful, like as far
That's a whole
as
nother story. Our whole dating relationship. That was tough. And I had to be really resilient through
yeah.
that. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
But it ended up preparing me for hard things that we would face together in our marriage too.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
knowing how to work with each other and not just be in the happy bubble of, you know, butterflies and roses that a lot of people kind of go into marriage with. We struggled through our dating time and
Mhm.
it brought us resilience
Yeah.
and strength in that relationship.
Yeah, I love my brother so much, but like I lived with him for 17 years or something like that before I moved
He
out.
can be very stubborn.
Yes, he can
He
be
puts
very
his mind on
stubborn.
something and he's going to follow through no matter what,
Yeah,
right or wrong almost.
yeah, exactly.
So,
Now, so you've been a really good calming influence for him to help him to notice other ways to deal with children, for example, or like relationship things in general, because his personality is just so straightforward,
mhm.
and just like right and wrong, and this is the way that we go. But he has softened so much. I've seen him soften. Well, and he's got such a good heart too. Like the whole thing with being a firefighter and do volunteer firefighting and then wanting to work with people to help people to be more healthy, and the way that he goes about it too is so much more holistic than he doesn't want to just hand out drugs, even though that's what people want a lot of times. He wants to actually help people to be better, and I really admire him a lot, and I admire you for sticking it out with him and teaching him how to be that soft person, that gentle giant that he's turned out to be. Just goes to show, like, we have so much influence over the people around us. We can't control them, but we certainly can set an example and support people. So
Right.
that's amazing. Okay. We're about halfway through this episode of the Sendy Mom Podcast. Our mission at Sendy Mom is to build, lift, encourage, persuade, and inspire women to feel empowered in their lives. If you like hearing positive and inspiring stories, please rate and share this episode with others. I know there is somebody that you're thinking about that would really benefit from this conversation I'm having with Kim. You can also write me a text or an email and let me know that you find this inspiring and helpful. You can find Sendy Mom at Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and online at sendymom.com. The next episode of Sendy Mom will be a conversation with Leslie Morley. Leslie is a fantastic artist. You will love her art. Our conversation will seriously inspire you. To receive an update every time a new episode is added and for special bonus content, you can subscribe at sendymom.com totally free. I have loved all of the things I am learning about being a life coach. I would love to be your life coach. If you would like a free consultation or even to just try out life coaching, please find the link to my calendar in the show notes. I would love to help you find your Sendy. Wait till you hear what is coming up in the next half of my conversation with Kim. So he was finally able to go through PA school. It was a really difficult thing. And then you decided to move back to Utah.
Yeah.
And tell me about that experience. Like, getting
So
a
we
job and everything.
finished the last 4 months of his schooling. It was a 27-month program.
Yeah.
We finished the last, I guess, 3 to 4 months out here in Utah. We were allowed to move back. And he set up his own clinical rotations out here because the second year of schooling is the rotations. He finished schooling um, right around December of 2019. And then he spent the next 2 months studying and preparing to pass the national exam, the PA national exam test. And he did pass that. And then in March, he had interviewed for several really great jobs, got offers, and then COVID hit. Right at that time, within just days, all of the offers that he received, he had 2 to 3, I think, places offer, and they rescinded their offers because hiring freezes got put in place.
Yeah.
So that's crazy because at a time when they needed desperately medical professionals, these companies couldn't hire and bring people on because of the hiring freezes.
Yeah.
And
That made no sense to me. I don't
was really
understand
crazy.
why they did that.
Yeah, it's just because, I mean, the world kind of stopped for a while.
kind of
Everything
did.
shut down and
Nobody knew
everyone
what to
just
do.
kind of panicked. And so,
Yeah. That was a really difficult time. So he was out of work
So
for
he,
a little
from
while.
March until it was about September of that year. So through that whole spring and summer when the schools, got canceled and kids had to come home and learn at home,
Yeah.
he was there. So,
Yep.
so
So he
that
could
ended
kinda
up
help
being a
out.
blessing. Our oldest son, who was about, how old would he have been? 9 or something at the time. He was on a baseball team and they were continuing to meet for practices and things. So Jim got really involved with the team and kind of just catching up with his children the last several years that he had missed with going to school and being not really around a lot. Now he was home and he was helping be the tutor for the kids with their online schooling and everything.
Yeah.
So that did end up being a blessing. And then he was hired later on in the fall of that year at an urgent care, which we kind of thought would be just a step-off job. But turns out that he actually really enjoys the pace of it. It's a very fast-paced.
Yeah.
It's more of like a revolving door type situation with patients that come in with a specific need. He's able to help and then move on, and he just kind of thrives on that.
Yeah.
So
And
it's
you've been able to support him through all of those transitions and everything too, which is it's always difficult when I mean, like marriage, like relationships are just tricky, right? And then when you've got your husband, there all the time and then gone all the time, it's hard to kind of manage that. But you've worked it out. You have a really good relationship in spite of that. Okay, so I thought about editing this section out because we kind of talked for a minute about sex after marriage. But I'm going to go ahead and leave it in. It's a little bit awkward because it's my brother and my sister-in-law that I'm talking to. But, I think it's important for all of us to understand that we're pretty normal in our feelings about what sex should be after marriage and what it actually is and what it should be. So we were talking about an app that Kim shared with me called Intimately Us. You can look into that because it can help to spark your relationship with your spouse. Take it for what it's worth. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we won't talk about the app that you sent to me. That's awesome, but I don't want to know about my brother. So I know you have a good relationship.
Well, it's actually one that we're trying really, really hard and working on.
Yep.
It doesn't exactly work the way. Anyway.
Yeah, well, you get to a point in your I mean, this is true though. You get just a point in your life where you're not as, like motivated that way. Actually, I heard the other day that basically our brains are designed for novelty and uncertainty because we are kind of wired for this and that's why people have affairs because they once you get married,
Novelty.
like I don't want to have sex anymore, like this is
Mhm.
just not exciting. It's a lot more exciting before you get married, before you can, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay. It's not like it's this isn't good anymore. It's like you just have to work at it. And
It
so
is true. And it's hard when there's an imbalance, when
mhm,
one spouse has a much higher desire per se than the other. You
mhm,
having to try to find that common ground where,
mhm.
you have to be supportive of each other.
Yeah,
And it
exactly.
is
I made a decision when we got married that I was never going to say no. And just, I
a
mean,
hard place to
yeah,
come from.
it wasn't though, because it was a decision that I made. It wasn't like this victim mentality. It was more of like, I just decided like, I'm just going to say yes every time because I know
You're
that
willing
he's,
participant.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then I'm going to work to make it enjoyable, for both of us. Right.
Hmm.
And that has made a huge
It's a really good
difference
mindset
in
for
in our
everybody.
relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's why the app was actually pretty good.
Glad you
It's
enjoyed
fun.
that. It
Yeah.
actually has helped me a lot because I am more of the one that holds back and is like, I just,
Yeah.
and so it's helpful for me to kind of help myself get in the mindset and to remember I need to think of him and I need to think of those needs. And it's in a way it's a part of their masculinity and their
Yeah.
feeling like they're being a good father, spouse,
Yeah.
provider. It all ties into that for them, especially for me.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So for sure. But it's also a way for you to connect as a couple too. So I think
Yeah.
it's really important that way as well. Anyway, yeah, I'm really glad that we can be open with each other
Yeah. Yeah.
about stuff. Anyway, yeah. So let's go to okay. So 2020, horrible year, but he was like it's not lovely how everything just kind of works so that he was able to be with his family and develop these relationships that maybe he wouldn't have been able to develop
Hmm.
as well if
Yeah.
he jumped right into work after being in school, right?
Yeah, and it also helped him because Jim's a slow learner. He has a difficult time learning new things. That's why the whole schooling thing was kind of a shock to me when he even
Yeah.
wanted to try that.
Yeah.
And so going straight from the mentality of school and into a job where all of a sudden you've got to apply everything that you just learned.
Yeah.
So when he got that first job, it was a very slow transition
Yeah.
into, he wasn't slammed with like 40 and 50 patients a day. It was more like 10 to 20. And when you're only spending like 10 to 15 minutes
With
with each
somebody.
person, that can move pretty quickly, but it allowed him to go at a slower pace and get his feet under him.
Yeah. And now he feels really confident with what he's doing.
Yeah,
So
things are going really well now.
that's awesome. I'm so glad. Okay,
Yeah.
but then
So,
you fast forward a few years and then you've got more stuff going on with you.
yeah. So, I mean, we settled into a good routine. Our oldest daughter, she moved out, went to college. So we were dealing with all of that newness of having the
Uh-huh.
first one leave the nest. And that was hard. She did come home that first summer
Uh-huh.
and stayed at home. So, during that time, I was going to gym classes, which were really fun. I kind of started focusing more on my health and getting myself physically and mentally to a place where I wanted to be, where I felt like I was balanced, lost some weight, which felt good, got stronger, started playing pickleball, which
Yes.
became a major lifeline for me, thanks
Yeah.
to you. You were the one that introduced me to that and said, "Hey, we're going to start playing pickleball. Do you want to come?" And I was like, "I've never done that." Sure.
I know. I actually take a lot of pride in knowing that I
You were the
introduced
roots.
I taught her how to play pickleball, and now she's completely taken off.
It's a little bit of an obsession. A good one, I hope.
How often do you go play pickleball?
Right now, I probably play 5 days a week at
Okay.
least.
That's amazing. Yeah, and
It's
now that
been
it's getting
fun.
nice weather, you can actually
We're
play
starting to go
outside.
outside. It's much easier than playing inside. We play at churches a lot during the winter. It's just a lot more confined and balls flying everywhere and a lot of lines on the floor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, that's good.
so
Well, then a couple of years ago, then you were diagnosed with cancer, and tell me
mhm.
about that experience.
Yeah, I just remember it was around January, and I was driving somewhere in my car, and the sun had come out. It was a colder January day. And I just remembered this moment of feeling like, I'm in such a good place right now. I've got myself physically where I wanted to be. I felt like my diet was going well mentally. I just felt very balanced and just really good. And I remembered thinking, I need to be careful not to feel too good because that's when things change. And, a month or two, not a month even, it was just within a week, I had a mammogram because it was just time for a regular checkup. And they said, well, it's been a little while. And so I was
Yeah.
like, okay, well, let's schedule it. And I had tried to schedule in the previous year, but I
Uh-huh.
didn't have a primary care doctor
Okay.
selected. So they just wouldn't even do it for me. I'm like, okay. Well, then it took a whole nother year for whatever reason for me to get back around to it.
Okay.
So I had the mammogram, thought nothing of it. Even when they called me and they said, hey, we'd like you just to come back in for a diagnostic. And I was like, okay, didn't know what that meant.
Yeah.
So I went back in, and so what I'm basically trying to say is I felt no lumps. So there was no reason for me to have this mammogram other than that the doctors were like, well, it's been a year or two. Let's get it done. And they caught breast cancer. So, and when I received the diagnosis, I remember it was on Valentine's Day. Like it would have just been last year, a year ago,
Wow.
Valentine's Day, that I got my diagnosis, which is also Maddie's birthday.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
a lot of stuff.
Everything happened right at the same time.
Mhm.
Yeah. So how did you deal with that at that point? I mean, I guess you'd learned to deal with trials.
Yeah, I remember thinking, well, so when I actually read the report, I looked up my chart and read the report before any of my doctors called me or anything to tell me the
Yeah.
diagnosis. I read it and I knew right away what it meant. And I just remember I was in the parking lot actually, in a car,
By
my
yourself.
car by myself, which I was
Oh.
grateful for.
Oh, you were glad.
Mhm.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I just had time I mean, at first it just was kind of shock, It's like, well, maybe I read that wrong. Maybe that's not actually what it means.
Yeah.
Maybe because it was an invasive lobular carcinoma that they,
Yeah, the carcinoma would get me. Like I would see that and go like,
that's when I was like, okay, I know what that word means.
yeah.
As far as invasive and the lobular, well, it turns out that, yeah. So I had to go back in for some more testing and things so that they could figure out exactly what we were dealing with. They recommended I have a double mastectomy and go through chemotherapy and radiation, but basically the whole 9 yards. And it was because I had just a trace amount that they found in a lymph node, which meant that it was spreading.
Yeah.
And had it not been caught, then it would have spread throughout my body before I even knew. And it most likely would have gone into my bones and caused a lot of
Wow, what a
pain and
blessing
may
that
not
you
have even been
found
able to
it.
do much. So it was a
Yeah.
blessing that I had that mammogram and that they were thorough enough to bring me back in
Yeah.
and figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my
But
goodness.
yeah, so last year was a hard year. It was a year of me having to kind of step back from all these things that I had been doing and focus on uh, healing, going through all the treatments. My treatment schedule was pretty aggressive. They gave me one of the more aggressive treatment regimens to fight the cancer off. And
Yeah. And it was hard. Yeah, those
physically hard. After the first couple of chemo treatments, of course, my hair starts falling out, and then I lost it completely. And before it all came out, though, it just was thinning. It was thinning more and more every day. I would brush my hair, and just huge brushfuls, chunks would
tell me about that,
come
like the
out. And
first
that
time
was
you saw
hard.
that. Like the
Yeah, I you know what's coming, but you just don't really. know how to prepare yourself for that. I think as women, we place a lot of our identity persona in our hair and
Yeah.
our appearance. To have that starting to leave, it was hard.
Yeah.
So one day I just was tired of all the thinning, and I knew I just needed to cut it all off. And so I had Jim shave it all off for me. And I just remember after that happened, after he shaved it, looking in the mirror and just feeling like I didn't even recognize myself anymore. I'd gone through the surgeries. I had to
Talk
have 2
about like
surgeries.
humbling experiences to just see yourself
Mhm.
completely uh, just natural.
Changed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Physically, I mean, standing in front
Uncovered.
of,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
just kind of, I felt vulnerable.
Yes.
I felt, I didn't really know. I mean, I knew who I was and everything, but I just knew from that moment, it's like, well, I have to be different now. You can't just go through something like that and be the same person. But I remember even from when I had received my diagnosis, I decided I wasn't going to let this define me. I wasn't just going to be the person who kind of lays there in bed being sick. I guess I watched my mom do that a little bit, and I didn't want to be that. And that was one thing that's kind of always worried me growing up, watching how she had to do that. I didn't want to do that. And so I would try as hard as I could after a chemo treatment to bounce back and get back movement.
Yeah.
And
Pickleball kind of saved you.
pickleball helped
with
me a
that.
lot because it's something where I could just stand there in the court and hardly move at all, just
Yeah.
swing my arm. And I had such a supportive, amazing group of friends that I played with who took me as I was, and it didn't matter.
Yeah.
They showed up to support and help me, and it really rallied around me so that I felt like I was wanted, that I could show up with no hair and no,
And
however
nobody's
it
going to
was, and
judge
no one
you.
cared.
And no, you like be upset that you're not playing up to where you were
Yeah,
before.
exactly.
It's just, yeah, it's a beautiful group of people that,
They were willing to celebrate the milestones and the wins with me.
yeah. And that's what a Sendy community really is. It's people that surround you and say, come on, you can do this. We got you.
Exactly. Yeah. And not just that pickleball group, but family too.
Mhm.
Family was supportive, and they all helped out, and all the people that just showed up
Yeah.
to bring a meal, to, hey, I'm going to Costco. Do you need bananas? Whatever it was.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And well, and especially with Maddie too, since you need a
Oh,
lot of help with
absolutely.
her about, there's trials and then there's trials and trials that build on each other. And
Mhm.
sometimes you don't know how you make it through, but there are angels there that are all around us that are wanting to be there and wanting to build. We want to build each
Mhm.
other up. I think that there are more good people in the world than there are bad people.
I sure hope so.
That's been my
Hope so.
experience. So, I think
Good.
that sometimes we look out at the world and we think, oh, there's so much horrible things going on. And, you read terrible people saying horrible things to each other, right? But
Mhm.
that's all just media, yeah, it's
Yes,
all the
they're so
hype
funny.
because people want to listen to angry things. Like I heard that the other day. I was reading something and that's why like some of these podcasts or TV shows get a lot of views is because people like to hear people being angry, which I
Kind
don't
of the shock
understand.
and awe. It's like, I don't
Yeah.
know. There's an adrenaline part to that.
Yeah.
It's a true thing.
The shock and the awe, the things that are going on that are horrible, we just want to hear
Just
about.
gets attention.
Yeah, exactly. It gets attention. Whereas, like hearing about people, I love hearing about when people accomplish something, when they're like, going out there and they're setting goals. And even if they don't make them, they're just keep trying and whatever. I love hearing those. And that's, I guess, why I do this podcast, because I love getting those stories and getting those tools from other people of like, man, that was a hard thing to go through. Oh, okay. So you use radical acceptance. You just decided this is just the way it is. Or, oh, that was a really tough thing to do. Oh, you just got up and you started playing pickleball. Oh, yeah, that I could totally do that. When I'm going through something hard, I'm just going to move instead of standing still, because standing still is always going to take you backwards.
Mhm.
It's like being on a
So
moving
true.
walkway,
Yeah.
going the wrong direction. You have to keep moving if you're going to go forward, or else you could start going backwards. So, and that's what I've seen you do, like your entire life. That's what you do. You just keep moving. Even with the pickleball, like I remember you telling me one time that you had heard that, like, even if you're bleeding, you just keep playing. You just keep getting out there, and you're breathing hard and whatever. And there were probably some times when it was really hard.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there were times going through those treatments where my body physically hurt so much that even medications weren't really helping. It's just this deep muscle and bone ache that, the medicines were causing me to go through. Even now, I'm finished with those treatments, but I'm still on medications that block hormones in my body because my tumors were hormone fed
Okay.
by estrogen and progesterone. So basically, it forced me into like an early menopause state, but I can't do the replacement that normally happens. So I have to continue to block those hormones so more tumors don't grow, which causes a lot of muscle and mostly joint aches in my body.
Interesting. Okay.
So I'm very stiff when I first wake up in the mornings. It takes me a minute to be able to sit up. Um, Even putting pressure on my hands, like, you kind of push yourself out of bed, that hurts pretty bad.
Yeah. When did you finish your last chemo?
It was in August, I believe.
Okay. All
August
right.
last
So
year, right before school started.
it's been like 7 months, 8 months or something like that. So,
And then I had to do 12 rounds of radiation.
oh, that's right. Yeah.
So that took a couple months there
So
too.
when do they consider it in remission?
I don't know. They won't actually say, oh, it's in remission. You beat it. It's done.
No.
It's just ongoing treatment. Right now, they say there's no sign of disease.
Okay.
So
Well,
I guess
that
that's
is positive.
kind of the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
In my mind,
Yeah.
I view that. But going through something like that, really, it is such a mental game as much as it is physical too.
For sure.
You really have to kind of train your brain to not get defeated and to
Yeah.
not be held down,
Have hope.
to be positive, stay positive. And so often you hear that when you're sick, if you stay positive about it, positivity promotes healing.
For sure. Oh, no, I
So-
totally believe that. Yeah. Our
Super.
bodies are so connected to the thoughts that we think. And
Yeah.
if we can think those positive thoughts, it's just chemicals, right? So if you've got negative thoughts, you're dumping kind of negative chemicals into your body, which are important to have too. We have to have both the positive and the negative chemicals. And so, but if you allow your body to wash those negative thoughts through or feelings through you, then you can get through it, and then you can put some of those positive things back in. It's not toxic positivity though, because it's not like, it doesn't help to be feeling fear and then to say, I'm not afraid, that because you're lying to yourself, and your brain knows that you're lying to yourself. And so you have to go through that fear and be like, I'm really scared. Okay, so tell me some of the ways that you were able to stay positive through all of that, like mentally.
I don't know. I think just making myself get up and get through it. I had to talk a lot with my kids about things that I was going through. I didn't want them to be scared or confused. So talking about it, just being open with it, especially when I lost my hair, I knew that would change my appearance a lot. And I didn't want my kids to be freaked out about that or nervous. So I just tried to approach that with a lot of, hey, this is how it is now, but look, I can wear this cute wig, or I can find some cute hats to wear. And I did. I wore hats a lot during that time.
Yeah. So, and you
Past
just,
the insecurities.
and you just lean into it, right? And you just push
Your
push
support.
into it. Well, and the other thing too that I thought was good is you were really open on Facebook and stuff about what was going on, and sometimes I think that can be really helpful because it brings out of the woodwork other people who have gone through the same thing, or even just the support of people saying, "Hey, we're here with you. We're gonna make this through."
Yeah, that was helpful, very much so. And I think also just getting it down. That's one thing people told me a lot in the beginning. Write it down, get a notebook and keep a journal about what you're going through.
Okay.
And so writing can be therapeutic.
Oh, that's a
So
really good tool. I
yeah.
like that. That is really good. So I have a few rapid fire questions for you that I always like to ask. So tell me, what has brought you joy in the last 24 hours?
It's just the last 24 hours. Well, this is a very simple, kind of dumb thing, but I love to make smoothies. So
Nice.
just making really yummy smoothies.
What's your favorite recipe?
There's a couple. My go-to is always a chocolate peanut butter one.
Okay.
Really like it. Satisfies the sweet tooth, gives me some protein.
Yep. Okay. So what do you put in? Tell me your
I have
recipe.
like a peanut butter powder,
Uh-huh.
a cocoa powder. I've been using chia seeds lately.
Okay.
And then for a base, I use almond milk,
Uh-huh.
and I got collagen powder because it's helpful for growing this nice.
Yes, it is. I do collagen every morning. I think it's super helpful. Yeah.
Just some frozen bananas and ice.
Okay.
Mix it all.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That sounds great. I love doing smoothies too. Okay. What about a book that you've read recently that
Ooh.
you would recommend?
Okay. That's actually a goal that I have. At the beginning of the year, I set a goal to read 50 books this year.
Good for
So
you.
I'm falling a little behind, but one that I really enjoyed was one called The Orphan Keeper.
Oh,
And it's about a little boy who is basically kidnapped from his family when he's young. He's 10 or so, 9. And it's in India, and he is put in an orphanage and adopted from this orphanage to America, where these
wow.
Americans that adopted him thought he was an orphan. They
Yeah.
couldn't understand him, his language, but they found out later through some recordings that, they made some recordings of him as a child. And he
Okay.
started talking about how he was taken from his mom. And I don't know if he was doing it kind of in a story or a song type thing, but later when they were listening to these tapes, they found out that he had a family that he was taken from. So it's in the end of the book is about him trying to reunite himself with his family and how this was like finding a needle in 1,000 haystacks.
Yeah.
It was very, very
Yes.
good read.
That's actually really scary that like maybe people do it because they think it's money,
It was all money. It was about the money.
So sad.
So
But okay, I'm gonna have to
it
look
was
for
a
that
really good
one.
one.
Yeah, that's great. What about a TV show or a documentary that you guys like to watch?
Um, Jim and I like to watch a show called The Rookie. So I'm into the
Oh,
crime dramas. I don't know. And it's
yeah.
kind of that one. It's a very upbeat one. It's about and maybe this kind of hits home for us, but it's about a guy who decides to go to police academy later on in life as a second career. He was a contractor and decides to go back to school and has to start out as this rookie who's like 50. So
Okay.
we just watch and it's entertaining. It's fun,
Oh, that's interesting.
but it
Okay.
kind of relates to what Jim went through a little bit too.
Yeah,
I think
exactly. And so
so,
and so he identifies maybe
yeah.
with this with the main character. Love that. Okay,
It's
great.
fun.
What about a charity or nonprofit that you support?
Well, that's a good one. We like to support Tabitha's Way because when we were going through the whole unemployment thing, we got food from the Bishop's Storehouse, but also Tabitha's Way. That was something that for me provided a lot of reassurance or like what's the word when I felt
Stability.
yeah.
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 Yeah, which is Tabitha's Way is a food pantry. And yeah, I mean, definitely support your local food pantry
Mm.
because there are people that really need it.
So
So yeah.
we make our kids go and volunteer there now and help out too. Tyson to
Good.
do that.
Yeah, that's
So
awesome. Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, what a great thing to help your children to understand too.
Yeah.
And for them to have gone through that as well is going to provide so much resilience for them because they
Mhm.
saw how you guys were able to get through it. And those kind of programs are for people exactly like you who are trying to get ahead, and they're just
Just have to bridge
working.
the gap. So,
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah, I love that.
It's great.
That's great. Okay, what about something that you try to do every day?
That's a good one. I like to listen to a conference talk or read my scriptures so that I can get the spirituality, just that grounding. Trying to start out on a good foot. I don't always get it in. Sometimes I'm just jumping out of bed and running off and starting my day. But I always find that if I can just take a minute, almost a meditative minute, to read and reflect on spirituality and boost my spirituality, it helps me so much throughout the whole day
For
to
the whole
just get
day.
into the right mindset. And so I'm focusing. I'm trying to get better at that.
That's
Making
awesome.
sure that I put the time in to do that.
Yeah. No, really good. What about, is there a woman from history that you admire that has always been kind of a role model for you?
I think I have a lot of those actually, but one that jumps out to me would probably be Max Smith, who married the prophet
Mm.
Joseph Smith. Yeah, Emma went through a lot.
She
She went
did.
through a lot supporting her husband. And
Mhm.
I know she lost a lot of babies and things like that, just
Mm.
struggles and uh, deprivation,
Yeah.
really. I think about those early pioneers that went through so much deprivation
Mhm.
and struggled for this faith that they believed in and
Yeah.
this cause.
Yeah, for
So,
sure. And
yeah.
you can relate to her a little bit too. Okay, what about a crossroads that you're at in your life right now? Or something that you really want to do, like a goal that you have.
I'm trying to level up my pickleball game, which has
Yeah.
been a little bit frustrating. I've been trying to move into a more advanced division, but realizing that I still have work to do to get to that point.
That's
I don't know if that's
interesting.
really a crossroad. I guess that's more of a goal.
A goal. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just to focus my game more on improving.
Improving. Yeah, when you're already really awesome. What I did is I went down. I started playing with people who were just starting, and now I feel awesome. I feel like I'm so good.
Well, and I love that you do that group too, that it helps people, because that's how I got started.
I know. Yeah, it is. It is really fun. I love teaching people how to play pickleball.
Yeah,
I like
it is.
playing, like with people that are a little bit more advanced too. But it is really fun to be there with these new people and
Yeah.
just say it's okay. Like
Right.
they're always saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
and you're like,
No, it's
no,
fine.
this is how
we
we
all are.
Yeah, and we all learn that way. So I love that. Well, this has been really fun. I'm
Thank you.
so happy that we finally were able to get together, and hopefully I like to space my sisters out a little bit because there's a lot of them, and eventually I'm going to try to get to everybody. But
Amazing.
yeah,
We're
it's
hearing all the stories.
yeah, for sure. So this
This is a great podcast. I'm really glad you're doing this. I think it's a very worthwhile thing to do. It makes a difference and it's helpful.
Thank you. Yes. Well, and these stories need to be heard.
Yeah.
It's important that we keep this recorded. So,
Yeah.
is there somewhere where people can find you on social media?
Yeah, I have a Facebook account. I think I'm also on Instagram too.
Okay.
So,
Is it? I think it's Kimberly Dodds, right?
yeah, there might be an S for my middle name.
Yeah, Kimberly
S.
Dodds. Yeah.
Dodds.
Okay.
But,
Well, good.
that's right.
So, well, thank you for being with me today, and thank you for being on the Sendy Mom podcast today. And we will see you next time.
Bye.
In the words of Eleanor Roosevelt, do something every day that scares you.